The Buffalo Bills do not have a 1,000-yard rusher, do not have a 1,000-yard receiver, have 25% of their salary cap tied up in dead money, and you're trying to tell me Josh Allen is not the MVP? Stevie, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills here. What are people talking about?
Man, you make a great point, brother, and I'm with you. I feel like Josh is the front runner, but we can't forget about that guy Saquon out in Philadelphia who's doing phenomenal things and breaking records.
Welcome into Broken Table, Week 17. That's Chris Hein. That's Tekeyah Singh. That's Stevie Johnson. I'm Aaron Korolnek. Josh Allen, Saquon Barkley. What about my guy Joe Burrow? The guy's on fire, leading the league in passing yards, leading the league in passing touchdowns, and he's got a defense that is truly abhorrent. Come on.
Let me just, sorry, Ravens fans, we are not trolling you by not mentioning Lamar Jackson's name through the first minute of this. I think, obviously, we all know it's Allen versus Lamar. I think there is an argument to Saquon. There is an argument to Burrow for sure. But, like, come on, people. Look at the supporting cast. All everybody talked about at the beginning of the season was how the Bills were not going to, they're the third best team in the AFC East, transition year. And then Josh does this and you're saying he's not the MVP. I understand Lamar Jackson might have slightly have better stats, but last year Josh Allen had far better stats.
Yes, he did.
And we looked at wins. Tekeyah, sorry. Go. I'm just, I could rant about this all day.
I could listen to it all day. No, it's a majority, it's a narrative-based award. A lot of people say not a stat-based award because if you look at last year, Lamar Jackson won when Allen had better stats.
Dak Prescott had better stats.
Yep, a lot of people had better stats. To Stevie's point about Saquon Barkley breaking records, Allen, I feel like every single week there is a graphic about the Bills or Josh Allen breaking some sort of record, Allen being the first to do something, MVP performance moments. Like, I don't think there's any question.
The one guy I think we probably should give a little bit more love to is Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, AFC North title coming up. Lamar statistically has been absolutely preposterous. The passing touchdowns, the rushing. He passed Michael Vick for the most rushing yards by a quarterback in NFL history. He's 27 years old, and I get it. He's got 2 NFL MVPs to his name, but why should that be a hindrance for him winning a third? In fact, I think you could argue that should be a reason to reward him even more. I think the fact that we're not giving Lamar enough love is an oversight.
For sure, Lamar deserves the love. I fully get it. And in any other year, I would give it to him.
Should give some love to Sam Darnold as well. You look at his stats, 35 touchdowns. He's top 5 in passing yards. The Vikings could very well finish 15-2. That's worth noting. And how about Baker Mayfield, who eviscerates Carolina? He is second in the league in passing touchdowns. He is 4th in the league in passing yards. Stevie, it's a really compelling MVP race. And I'm with you, Chris. I mean, I think ultimately it will come down to Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson, but there are cases to be made for 6, 7, 8 guys.
Were any of them playing with a broken wrist since week 1, though?
That's right. The broken wrist is a factor, Stevie.
Hey, and speaking of that week 1, you know, what guy have we not been talking about? Patrick Mahomes. The best team in the league is the Kansas City Chiefs, but who took them down? Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. So
let's go, Stevie.
Everywhere it goes is Josh Allen. You know, like Tekeyah was saying, is a record every week being broken or set. Like Chris was saying, you know, the talk about being the last in the conference, you know, not having a 1,000-yard receiver, not a 1,000-yard rusher, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But to being where they are now with 13 wins, I mean, it's amazing. Like we were saying. So I mean, hats off to Josh Allen. I think it's his.
Honestly, they call this a December award. Always. Everyone says December award. And look at the numbers since December has come. Josh Allen, all he's done is beaten the best team in the AFC, the Chiefs, beaten the best team in the NFC, the Lions, has 1 turnover and I think has been sacked once. I feel like people just get bored. And they looked at Lamar Jackson had 2 primetime games. He played on a Saturday where everybody was watching, and then he played on a Christmas where everybody was watching. And then everybody just goes crazy. Josh has not fallen off.
You're spot on. You mentioned the primetime thing, and that's a big part of the narrative.
Island games, as they call it.
Island games. Shout out to Basketball Island and Island games. Really important to have that showcase, right? And we saw it with Lamar and those 2 primetime games that he had in 4 days, and he put on a show statistically. And you looked at Baltimore, who are making moves in the AFC and climbing up the ranks of their division as well. So it makes sense. But I think when it's all said and done, Allen will win MVP. It's deserved. And you heard Tony Romo say, well, if Lamar had 0 MVPs and Josh Allen had 2, perhaps it would go Lamar's direction. That very well could be the deciding factor, the fact that Allen has 0 and Lamar already has 2. I don't really have an issue with that because it is that close. It's really, really close. And I know Derrick Henry is on Baltimore. I know Zay Flowers is on Baltimore. I know Josh Allen's been playing with a broken left hand. But statistically, it's very close. The 2 teams are very close. And Baltimore did wipe the floor with Buffalo when they played.
That was so long ago, though.
Well, it's still in the same season that he's going to win MVP. So, I mean, you got to factor that in.
What's more important, though, the head-to-head or Allen going and beating the Chiefs and the Lions? And I will say one more thing. The Ravens were, 13-4 last year in a 1 seed? And as a team, they got worse, despite bringing in Derrick Henry. Whereas Josh Allen was 11-5 last year. They lose Diggs, as you mentioned. They have $63 million in dead cap money, and all he does is make them better? Like, how can last year this be an award about winning? And we haven't seen an MVP in the lower than the top 2 seed, I think, since Adrian Peterson in 2012. That was the last year it happened. So winning is so important last year. Then why is it not as important this year? And if you want to give the award to Josh Allen last year because he had the numbers, then I'm fine with Lamar winning it this year. But you didn't do that. You've set a precedent. The precedent is you need to win. And Josh Allen has, I think, to me, he's won that MVP on all levels that we grade it.
And speaking of supporting cast, like, is Lamar Jackson as important or valuable to the Ravens as Josh has been to the
No
Bills?
chance.
No, I agree. I think that's indisputable. Consider what Baltimore has with Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Approaching 2,000 rush yards for the second time in his career. He won't get there, but he was close. It speaks a lot to the respective supporting casts. And I mean, I think it just sets up for a playoff picture in the AFC, especially with MVP candidate after MVP candidate going toe to toe come round 1, round 2.
Let's talk out Burrow and Saquon at least. Because I think, to Stevie's point, I really like Saquon. I think if Saquon, he's probably, depending on how Philly plays it, he could very well break the rushing record. And I think if you're going to say this guy's going to break Eric Dickerson's mark, he deserves to be in that conversation. But to me, it's just the running back just isn't as important as the quarterback. And it's showing even a historical year isn't enough to usurp Allen or Lamar.
Yeah, I say the same thing. I just wanted to give acknowledgement to him because essentially he's in the same position as Lamar Jackson. It's just flipped with him and Derrick Henry, with Philadelphia having Jalen Hurts, having a passing game, having 2 elite passers, to be honest, having a solid defense. So he got a lot going for Philadelphia. You expect them to be in this situation with the hometown kid doing what he's doing. So it's special. But at the end of the day, all of the cards were stacked against Josh Allen. And for him to prevail throughout this season, I mean, it's the writings on the wall. Like we was talking about earlier with those island games. Those island games were set up for Lamar Jackson because of, what he's earned it. That team has earned it. Obviously, you want to see Derrick Henry running on everybody and Lamar Jackson in his style. But they got to take notice of this. They flexed games for Josh Allen, against teams that were, I'm just going to say trash, and that's because they want to see more of him. And I feel like that was the writing on the wall to make everyone know that Josh Allen is the primetime guy for this season, which means he should earn this award for the first time.
Yeah, Josh Allen perhaps winning his first NFL MVP award this year. Let's talk about the game yesterday that featured a 4-time NFL MVP in Aaron Rodgers. I'm pretty sure he's not winning another one. I think that's safe to say. There will be no more NFL MVPs in Aaron Rodgers' future. That team in the Jets is absolutely putrid, and I enjoyed so much the Bills just beating them down in the second half. Touchdown, 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 and Rodgers just looking bewildered on the sidelines. Devontae Adams saying, God, what am I doing here with these losers? Garrett Wilson cannot wait to get out of New York right now. I mean, Tekeyah, it's ugly what's going on with the Jets, and it was just such a satisfying way for the Bills to conclude the legitimate part of their schedule. We'll talk about Week 18 in a second, but beating up on the Jets, a division rival, that was a beautiful one.
How good did that feel? Also, I think Aaron Rodgers said he benched himself.
What was the conversation like with Jeff when he took out of the game? What were your thoughts on that?
I mean, it was 33-0. We were sitting there, and I said at some point, probably go to Tyrod here, huh? And then the next play, they threw a screen for a touchdown. So it's 40-0.
Yeah,
yes.
He did. Should have did that before the season started.
Yeah, you should have. And I don't know if is he going to still play football after this? I don't know.
1.2 QBR for Aaron Rodgers, the lowest recorded since 2017 yesterday.
Your boy Davis Mills?
Davis Mills. Yeah, Davis Mills, legend, was the last guy to be as bad in a game as Rodgers was yesterday. But I don't know. We've talked about Rodgers endlessly on this show throughout the course of the year. And Stevie, I know you still have a soft spot in your heart for Rodgers, but after watching that one yesterday, man, come on. You got to jump ship off Rodgers.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to jump ship off of him, but I just wasn't understanding what he was doing. It seemed like he was, hey, you got to go down, come down. Like everybody know if it's open, you got to throw the ball to go get to the end zone, so don't call out your player again. And then, the play where Garrett Wilson fumbled, Garrett Wilson might think, oh, it's on him for fumbling, but he's being an ultimate competitor. Rodgers got the ball and he did 2 fakes that was kind of like, you're not even faking nobody. You just like going through the motions with it and throwing the ball where it shouldn't even have been. You should have held that, and did something else. But, it turned into a turnover. And enough about, taking care of the Jets. They got what they deserve, and the Buffalo Bills is our turn to take over this conference and division. So it is what it is ultimately. I still got props to Rodgers for playing this long, but it is what it is at this point.
Just a reminder, our lovely friends at FanDuel, they had the Bills as the plus 190 to win the AFC East, with the Jets, with the favorites at close to even money.
Can you imagine someone betting on the Jets?
I was going to say, one of the 4 of us like the Jets in that division. We don't need to go over that again.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But everyone in New Jersey.
Yeah,
everyone in New Jersey bet on it.
But it's not... The Jets and Rodgers still will have a say in this playoff picture, because if they beat the Dolphins, that could be a major factor here. And let's bring up the potential for the playoff, because here's the scenario going into the final week of the season. Denver gets the 7 seed with a win over KC. That's nice and easy. KC playing their backups, they're a big favorite. Miami gets in with a win over the Jets, paired with a Broncos loss. Now for Cincy, and this is what none of us want to think, Cincy gets in with a win over the Steelers, but then they also need the Broncos to lose to the Chiefs and the Dolphins to lose to the Jets. Now, if all teams lose, Broncos lose, Cincy loses, Miami loses, Denver gets in. So from a Bills perspective, and I'll start with you, Stevie, who is the one team you don't want to see out of Cincinnati, Denver, and Miami?
Yeah, I don't want to see Cincinnati because they still got memory about, hey, I came to Buffalo before and we dominated them. We kept their offense off the field. So I don't want to see that team, to be honest. The easiest team, I would say, and I think got the most opportunity to make it, is the Denver Broncos. And that'll be like a wake-up call for the Buffalo Bills as far as, that young energy being led by a young quarterback getting into the playoffs. They got a young defense. And, I don't think they'll be able to outlast the Bills, but it'll be a great wake-up call for the Bills in the first round of that.
I know Kansas City gets a bye with the 1 seed, but if Buffalo were to have Miami visiting in the first round, that would also act as a bye, because Miami is pathetic in cold weather. I don't know what the record is. Josh Allen versus the Dolphins over the last
13-2, I believe, including playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. And Tua is now hurt. Snoop Huntley's their quarterback again. Jalen Waddle's banged up. I mean, Miami they're limping into the playoffs. That would be the dream scenario.
Shout out to TSN staffer Pac, who I often will rip this. He is a Dolphins fan. I have a Google Doc where I just take Josh Allen's numbers versus the Dolphins and then update them with everyone.
Nice.
13-2, including playoffs, and then he's also, I think, won AFC Player of the Week in 5 of those games. So yeah, if we're picking the opponent I want to see the most,
easily,
it's Dolphins 1, no doubt. Tekeyah, you're with me?
Oh yeah, I don't even have to say anything. Yep, you guys said it. Dolphins. 100%.
And we all fear Cincy appropriately.
Yes.
Denver.
Yes.
It's not that like Denver is going to be some walkover either. I mean, Bo Nix had a really nice rookie season, and they've got some competent playmakers. They have Sean Payton, who has playoff experience as a coach. Denver scares me a little bit. Of course, Buffalo will be, 7-point favorite in that game at home?
Probably
maybe even more,
yeah.
maybe 7.5, maybe up to 8.5, whatever it would be. But Denver, Stevie, does kind of scare me a little bit. Mostly the Sean Payton factor. He's been there in those big moments in the playoffs. But needless to say, for the Broncos, that would be a large task for them to take down a Buffalo Bills team on the road.
Very large task. And like I was saying, it's just going to come down to endurance and being in those situations. And the Buffalo Bills have been in those situations. They got players that's been there. The culture that they've built, has prepared those guys for the long run. And I feel like, again, the Denver Broncos will come out. They may be hot, that first 15, as always, you're playing against other pros. But I don't think they'll be able to last all the way into the fourth quarter against the Buffalo Bills. And if they had to go extended quarters, because that defense, I really like what I saw last game from that defense. It was consistent. They continued to apply pressure. They got first level tackles. They got a safety, they got pressure on the quarterback, obviously. And again, no yards after catch. After the receiver caught the ball or a running back out the backfield, tackle instantly or pushed out of bounds. So that's a great thing for a defense. In an offense, it's tough for them because that means more plays. You got to get more plays. And, as you see, the Buffalo Bills go end up getting that turnover or that pressure. So that's my opinion on our Bills team and defense.
Chris, let me flip the question. If you're Kansas City, who do you want to get in? And my answer may be different than yours.
I think let me just try to get inside your mind here. I think you think the Chiefs want the Bengals to get in because
correct.
the Bengals will only have to play one of Baltimore, Buffalo, and Cincinnati.
In the first
Eliminate
round,
them.
Cincinnati could, in theory, beat Buffalo, which is Kansas City's biggest hurdle to overcome.
Yeah.
So, and KC, they will control the destiny of that, right? But it seems like right now, based off of the spread, we're seeing, I think it was 7.5 or 9. I've seen it. I think it settled at 8.5 this morning when we looked at the lines. That's clear Carson Wentz is playing. But that Chiefs team can very well beat the Broncos even with Carson Wentz.
There was some reporting that it wasn't just Carson Wentz. It was some dude off the practice squad was going to get reps as well. Like, again, I don't think, Kansas City doesn't care. I think at the end of the day, Kansas City doesn't care. They think they're better than everyone else. They know everything comes through Arrowhead. It doesn't matter if it's Buffalo, it's Baltimore, it's Denver, it's the Chargers. They're confident in what they can do, but you do want the best path possible. And I think for Kansas City, if somehow Cincinnati were to play the Buffalo Bills and beat the Buffalo Bills, which Stevie mentioned they have done in the past.
Every Bills fan has nightmares of Cincinnati.
Of course. And Kansas City would love to see Cincinnati come to town as opposed to Buffalo.
Let's properly call out Sean Payton for the coward that he is, though. You have 3 plays to eliminate the Bengals. And I'm not just bitter because I had Broncos +3 parlayed with under 50.5, which would have hit in the tie. But, why are you a coward? Go for the first down and end it. You get a first down, you can kneel it out, take the tie, you're in the playoffs.
I wonder if he even knew.
Of course, you have to know.
I'm not so sure. I think you're giving these NFL coaches too much credit. Sometimes they are a lot dumber than they let on.
Then hire some nerd to be in the booth to tell him if you get a first down, you're in the playoffs.
Think of how many times we've seen these inexplicable coaching decisions. And I'm right. I was watching that game in the boardroom and thinking, what are they doing? You advance with a tie. Forget winning the football game. They were so conservative. They're running the ball, running these ugly play action plays that really had no chance of converting. You're right. What Peyton did at the end of that game was almost coaching malpractice.
And you know what's
so
funny?
Stupid.
You know who definitely knows what's going on? And we can take last year's Super Bowl as a perfect example of this. From the beginning of the playoffs, Chiefs players said Andy Reid drilled in their head how they are going to act with the new overtime rules.
Yep.
This is the situation. This is how we have to play it. We almost want to play it like a college overtime. You want defense first. And then we get to the Super Bowl, and Kyle Shanahan makes the mistake of taking the ball first when anybody who looks at those new OT rules is like, that is not how you need to play that. So, yes, the team that keeps winning Super Bowls, they have the coach that's always prepared. Everybody else, I don't know what the hell they're doing.
Steve, you enjoying our coaching slander?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I'm learning. Hopefully the people will be learning from it also. And I'm looking forward to hearing what they got to say or reading it.
Yeah, that's something. But the AFC playoff picture, man, it is so fascinating because to get all the way through, think about the gauntlet of superstars, future Hall of Famers that you need to get through. And for the Bills, barring something unforeseen, it's going to be a very difficult path. But we've seen it all year long. We know this team is primed. And we know Josh Allen is playing as well as he has. And I think the most recent game against the Jets, and we goof on Aaron Rodgers, the Bills' defense seemed to have turned a corner for me. Yep. And there were some sketchy performances there in the last month or so. But, and I get it. It's Rodgers, it's Adams, it's Wilson, it's Breece Hall. Those guys are really talented. Maybe they were, at least at some point in their careers. I'm not sure exactly where they are now. But the way the Bills' defense looked against the Jets was really a positive sign heading into a meaningless Week 18.
I think the pass rush, especially. You saw Epinesa getting off. You saw Von Miller getting off. You saw Russo. All of these dudes were really aggressive getting after the passer. And that's kind of what will be the difference when you get an elite quarterback in the playoffs. You need your pass rush to show up. And all of those guys showed up.
Stevie, how would you handle Week 18 if you were the Buffalo Bills regarding personnel? And keep in mind, they play the New England Patriots, who, with a loss, would clinch the number 1 pick in the draft. If you're Buffalo, is that something you don't want to happen as they do play in the same division?
Yes, to answer, I don't want it to happen. And as a former player, and you know that info, you wouldn't want it to happen. But you also it's a bigger picture. You probably want to go out hard on the first half. And then, hey guys, we go end up substituting and putting other players in for the second half, depending on, how things are going. And then you just go from there. But I think the Buffalo Bills are locked in on playoffs right now and kind of getting that schedule together. the New England Patriots, it'll just be a fun win. It'll be a good win for the Bills. But does it mean too much? Maybe not. But I just feel like, it's a lot at stake for personal reasons. Josh Allen can be the number one rushing leader in the Buffalo Bills franchise history. All he needs is one more touchdown. So, you go in, I would just say first quarter, maybe if you dominate, go at 14, maybe you pull the guys out in the second quarter. But if it's close, go to the first and the second, and then, play things out in the second half when you go in at halftime.
That is one thing I love and I hate about the NFL. Week 18, even week 17, we just saw it with the Giants who beat the Colts, right? The fans are like, no, what are you doing? We need this number one pick. And I totally understand it. While you look at the NBA or the NHL, Major League Baseball, there's kind of a lottery, right? So in the NFL, it's like if you have the worst record, you will be drafting number one overall. And say what you will about this year's draft, whether you like Ward or Sanders or maybe Travis Hunter, but you probably, if you're Buffalo, you want to win that game because you want to lose that game. You want to lay down and be like, hey, what's Nathan Peterman up to this week?
There's no way you can be thinking about that I'm with Stevie. I think they talked about on the broadcast too, Josh's consecutive start streak is really important to him. So you either give him a quarter max, maybe a series, or series or two. You need to treat this as your bye week and get everybody right. But here's the thing. If you're going to start Josh, you need to start all of your linemen. You need to kind of have that figured out. Either you're going to a series and then have all backups come in, but you can't have somebody getting hurt next week.
I don't envy the coaches who have to make these decisions, like McDermott, like Nick Sirianni with the Eagles, and Saquon Barkley, like Dan Campbell tonight against the Niners in a game that doesn't mean anything for Detroit. Are they really going to give Jahmyr Gibbs 30 touches in a game that really doesn't mean anything for their playoff implications regarding seeding? And that's why it's such a hard decision to be made.
Have you met Dan Campbell?
I know what Dan Campbell's going to do. He's going to do something completely reckless and probably suffer even more injuries for Detroit. But I think for the Bills in particular, you have to lay out a plan and be like, here's what we're doing: a couple series,
max,
and be like, Josh, if anyone gets close to you, you throw that ball away. Like you're not taking any hits. Yep. That's the number one thing. And I think the running backs, like, you're really going to give James Cook a bunch of touches. Like, all right, this is Ray Davis territory, Ty Johnson territory. I think you just got to be careful.
So here's my question for Stevie. And going into tonight, Stevie, you were talking to us off air. You said you think Dan Campbell, he's a maniac. You know what he's going to do. But if you're a player on that team, is it hard to sort of take your foot off the gas for week 17 and then be like, okay, now we need you revved up again for week 18 against the Vikings in what is essentially a winner-take-all game for the 1 seed?
Yeah, and I believe it started at the end of their last game. Coach Campbell would probably say, hey, guys, we're going to the 49ers. You know what they did to us last year, and we're going to go in here. We're going to try to dominate these guys early in the game. I think Coach Campbell, he's got to stay who he is and be aggressive, and I think that's who he built his team mindset to be about. And so I think it's automatically plugged in that they're going to go hard all 4 quarters, but it's going to be on Coach Campbell to take that next step and see if you can fall back a little bit and pull the rings off and not give Gibbs 30-plus catch. Rushing attempts.
And you have to factor in, like, the main decision makers on these respective teams. Like, Allen will be a part of this decision. Saquon Barkley will be a part of the decision. Same goes for the top guys in Detroit tonight. So, yeah, if things go awry, though, like, imagine Saquon were to get hurt in Week 18, chasing that rushing record, or Allen were to get hurt, God forbid, playing in this meaningless game against the Patriots. Like, that's where the risk comes in for the coaches because they're held accountable for those decisions more so than anybody else.
Stevie, what would you do? If you're Saquon Barkley, you're basically Philly's locked into that 2 seed no matter what. The game is meaningless. You need 100 yards, though, to break Eric Dickerson's rushing record.
101 yards.
Sorry. Are you playing or are you sitting out?
Yeah, I'm gonna tell him, hey kid, hey, you got 1 half to get 100. I'm gonna give it to you as much as I see. And then I'm gonna shut it down at the second half. We're already going for bigger things, so I'm gonna give you 1 half, and then let's give it all we can. If I see you almost get hurt, I might shut it down even earlier. So that would be my conversation.
Yeah, Saquon against the Giants. I mean,
yep, I think he could very well go for 100 and a quarter.
Yeah.
So
you know what? I'll be betting anytime touchdown in the first half for Saquon Barkley. Yeah. Next week, I'm sure. Hopefully, FanDuel doesn't listener watch to this because.
And speaking of that is a great segue to our best bets for today. And let's just look at the standings. We hit our parlay again, 2nd week in a row, and that was a 5-legger because Stevie gave us 2 legs, couple of unders that both hit. So And you said first half touchdown. Tekeyah, kick us off here.
Yeah.
What do we got for tonight?
You're reading my mind because I'm going to go with Gibbs' first half touchdown. 11 of his 15 touchdowns this season so far have been in the first half. So I'm sticking with a first half touchdown. You're getting it at plus money, I think. Plus 105
I think it was plus
or something
105,
like that. Yeah, so you're getting value there for doing it in the first half. And his stats say it all.
I like that. And I like Juwan Jennings personally over 62.5 receiving yards. I think the Niners are going to be throwing the ball a lot tonight. You look at Detroit's secondary, certainly more susceptible than they are against the pass than they are against the run. I think Juwan Jennings has a big performance tonight. Purdy is chucking it. Give me Jennings over 62.5.
I will also go with a Niner, and I'm going to go with Garendo over 79.5 rush and receive.
Okay,
Now,
I like it.
I'm with you. I think they could throw a decent amount, but I think this will be like a good split. I think he's going to probably have about 50 on the ground. All you need is about 30 in the air. He's a good pass catching back. When he's healthy, he gives you those numbers. Detroit's defense banged up. So, Stevie, give us the winning leg. You're backing your boy Dan Campbell.
Yeah, I'm a back Dan Campbell. I feel like the Lions will come out strong and they will come out hot, and they're going to be seasoned up for Week 18 and going into the playoffs.
That Week 18 game between Minnesota and Detroit for the 1 seed. The loser, get this, the loser will have 14 wins and will be the 5 seed in the NFC. How crazy. They will start on the road in spite of winning 14 NFL games in a 17-game season. It's a byproduct of an incredible NFC North.
Yep.
But at the same time, man, what a battle that's going to be on Sunday night next week.
We'll close on this, but I've been anti-Vikings all year.
And?
I'm still not a believer.
Oh, wow.
I'm still not a believer. I think, sure, they can win in round 1, but if the Packers get them for a third time, I'll be smashing the Packers. Are you guys believers in the Vikings?
More so than the Packers, I am. I mean, what is Green Bay? 0-5 against the top 3 teams in the NFC this year? I know they were close games, but still.
Yeah.
A win's a win, a loss is a loss. I don't think Green Bay is at that level.
But they weren't even really, and you're almost giving Green Bay too much credit because they weren't really close games. That was not a close game yesterday. They battled back. Same thing with the Lions game. On the scoreboard, it looked like a close game, but they were down and they battled back.
You're right. Green Bay is absolute trash. That's what I meant to say. But yes, it's an interesting one with Minnesota. Again, they continued to win and win and win. If they were to get that number 1 seed, which all it would require is a win in Detroit next Sunday night, I mean, road goes through Minneapolis with that bye in the first round, home field advantage. Who's to say that Sam Darnold isn't quarterbacking the Super Bowl champions this year?
That's crazy.
I just
What a
cannot.
story.
I cannot see that happening.
Nor can I.
Stevie, get us out of here before Aaron says something else crazy.
Yo, hey guys, remember to procrastinate later. Make sure y'all handle business, have fun, and repeat. This is a Broken Table production. One love.